welcome back to another Kids Room podcast episode. And today we're going to be talking about switching it up. Switching it up because at one point I thought that God stopped my life. At one point I thought I was at such a high place, such a high level. I thought I could never come down until one day I came crashing down and stumbled into a valley. And I thought that my life was done, right? Little did I know that God had a different purpose for my life. And maybe because I was younger, I didn't think about the grind that I had at that point in time to get to where I was in my past until now. And now that I'm older, as we get older, we start to realize that we become more aware of the struggles that we do have in life. And we can't forget, though, that sometimes God has to switch our whole lives around and be on that pivot of a 180 and to flip and totally face the opposite direction, right? As you were going in one direction, and now as God flipped it all around and is telling you to go to a whole nother direction, we cannot forget that maybe we just weren't ready yet. That going down this journey we do call life, and we do look for the blessings, that sometimes a setback can be a blessing. That sometimes God has to hold us back from certain things and situations that we don't see yet, that are foreshadowed into our life, into our destiny, into our futures, that God sees in front of us already. So sometimes God's going to have to switch it up. And He's going to have to put us on a ballpoint, right? He's going to have to put us on the defense maybe for a little while, right? Because we believed that what we were doing at that time, or what we saw ourselves doing at that time, we were going to do that forever. And God doesn't want you to get too comfortable. When you become too complacent in things, we start to forget that God can change us in a single snap of a finger, in a single day, in a single moment. God can switch everything. One moment, I was running, doing my thing in track on a collegiate level, right? And I had certain thought processes and certain things in life that was, I felt like I was good at, that I felt like I was going to do something for a long time, and short-lived, as you would say, or as I thought it was. For many years I ran and I trained and I tried to do what I had to do. And then I tore my Achilles in the midst of one big meet that I felt as if I was going to do great at. And, that's the highest of highs, doing things and living through COVID and still doing class and still training provided me with a mental state of comfortability, though. And I've thought about this for many years now. It's been about 3 years because I graduated college in 2021. And I've thought about it. And all the patience and all the turmoil and the tension that I had with God, what I had with Christ in the midst of all this battling, I learned so much about myself, and I pushed myself beyond limits that I could never see, that I could never foresee for myself either. And it was all because I had to tear my Achilles and basically stop everything I had and think that everything was going to be torn away from me, and things were actually being built towards me, being built up towards me. But it was something that I didn't see, something I didn't get to guess that was going to happen, or I didn't get to have a say in it. And, when you go through something like that, it changes your perspective on everything. And as simple as walking again after a year of being uncomfortable, it made me even more grateful for that. And in John 13 verses 7, it says that Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." I had to learn to let go and let God. That once I realized that God was already putting me on another track, whether I liked it or not, that His plan was always going to prevail. And that's probably why I am making this video today, and that's probably why I am going as far as doing the things that I'm doing now and just speaking, because I remember even since I was a child that I knew I didn't want to have a normal job, but I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. And that's not to say that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or anything like that. I didn't even want to start a business, stuff like that, but I just knew I wanted to help people, right? And that's something I've always wanted to do for free. I've never really thought about taking from people, but more of giving. And I could say that's a gift, right? So whether or not we know what God's plan is, it's gonna prevail, right? And that can completely pivot us in the life in a different direction that we thought our life was going. And it goes on to say also in Isaiah 41 verse 10, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." God will come back to you and multiply you, right? To fulfill your life and to fulfill your next purpose in life, right? God wants you to be a sponge and to soak up everything that he has, but when it's time to wring you out dry, that means he wants to pour something else into you. So you won't forever be dry, but you will eventually be moistened by the gift of Christ, by the moisture on the dew of the grass that you feel in the morning in springtime or in the wintertime in the fall. And you start to see the color of the leaves change, and you start to change, and there's a different season in life. And that's what it is. God decides when to change us. God decides that. God knows the right track that we're supposed to be on. God is deciding all of that stuff, right? And in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3, "But the Lord is faithful. He will establish you and guard you against the evil one." So even though sometimes we think that God is forsaking us and leaving us behind, we have to know that God is blessing us more and more. That God is forever blessing us more and more each day. That we don't see what's ahead, but he does. So whenever he makes a decision and wants to bring us away from what we're doing, we have to trust him. And that's the biggest thing I've had to learn over these last 3 years of my life, is to trust God, right? And I turned 26 in a few weeks, and Deuteronomy 31:6, it's been spoken so many times to me, and I've read it so many times, but now it means so much to me. And it says to be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave or forsake you. And that's true. He's not going to leave you. He will never forsake you. So when you go through something, count it a joy and for a trial and tribulation, because it is a test of your endurance of faith, as it says in the word. That we have to trust God, trust Christ. The path is narrow, so it's not easy. But the devil is strong, and he wants to destroy you, kill you, throw you off the path, and distract you and blind you. But don't let that happen. So if he decides to switch it up on you, because at one point, I myself thought that God forsake me and left me alone, but it just was because I wasn't ready yet for what he had for me. And I am prepared, and I am getting qualified to do the things that he wants me to do. That's it. That's all I got for y'all, man. I appreciate it. If you're tapping in with me through the podcast, subscribe, share this with somebody, man. Let's switch it up in 2025. Let's bring something new into the new year. And let's hold strong and be consistent with it. Hope y'all feeling loved and blessed, bro. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.